What it do, y'all? So I've never made a story time, but um, I wanted to get on here and share something that was near and dear to my heart, and I felt like a lot of people wouldn't understand me, but then maybe it's a possibility that this story may, touch somebody else, or maybe um, they could understand exactly where I was coming from with my story. So, March 1st of 2023, 8:30 p.m., I get a call from a sibling of mine on my dad's side that I don't know. And that phone call was a crushing one. It was her calling me to let me know that my dad had passed away. And it messed me up. One, because it's from a sibling I don't know. Haven't talked to you, don't really know you. I'm glad that you were able to call me and tell me, you know, what was going on and give me the information at the hospital that my dad was at, because my dad lived in California, and all of his children live here in Columbus, Ohio. So I called the hospital, and the doctor or the nurse was like, "Hey, have you talked to your sibling? Have you talked to your sister?" And I said, "Yes, I talked to my sister." And he like, "So she told you what was going on?" And I said, "Yes, yeah, she told me what was happening." And he was like, "Sorry for your loss." And I was like, "Well, can I see him?" And he was like, "You absolutely can." So they have iPads there where sorry you guys, I got a phone call. Um so me having to tell or say my goodbyes to my dad over a FaceTime call was heart-wrenching. Um I hadn't got to talk to him the time that he was in the hospital, even though my siblings knew that he was sick and he was dying for a week or two before they contacted me. But my dad was very stubborn, and he didn't want anybody to know that he was as sick as he was. And he thought that he was going to beat it, and he didn't want nobody to worry. That's just the type of man he was. He was a manly man. He didn't want nobody to worry about him. He was going to beat whatever odds came his way. And so that's why they didn't contact anybody or really say anything to anybody about how bad it had got. Now, um, so seeing him deceased and talking to him, that was the first time I had laid eyes on my father in almost 20 years. The first time. And that was an extremely hard pill to swallow. Having to say goodbye to him in that manner and not hear him say anything back to me, but to tell him I loved him and that I was sorry that I wasn't able to, you know, be there with him as he was dying by himself in a hospital by himself. And it sucked. It really did. It really did eat me up a lot. And for a long time, I'm not even gonna lie, like for a long time I didn't have a relationship with my dad. Um I didn't gain a relationship back with my father until maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't gain that relationship back with him until then. I maybe was like 29, maybe 30. I'm 36 now. Um, my dad really wasn't in my life. I had talked to him when I was younger. My grandmother, his mother, she was active, and she was the person that really kept us together. Um, Now my dad had, I don't know how many kids. I'm the youngest out of all of them. I think it's maybe 12 or 13 of us that all live and reside in Columbus, Ohio, from what I know. And, some of them or some of us know each other and some of us don't. I didn't meet one of my sisters until maybe about 2 years ago. Um, I met my brother when I was younger. Don't really remember him. Remembered his name, but don't really remember him. I remember the interaction that we had, but that was like the only time I knew about it or knew of him or had seen him. Um, so like I said, my grandmother was the glue that kept the relationship with me and my father um, at the time alive. Um, and then she passed when I was maybe in elementary or early middle school, maybe sixth grade. And I didn't attend her funeral. I don't know why. Again, I was younger. I was a kid. I don't know why I didn't attend. So I didn't see my dad at her funeral. And again, my dad lived in California, and when he came home, if he came home at any point, I didn't see him when he came home. Um, so my mother, grandmother, and a couple of my aunts um, had let me know that one of my dad's cousins had passed a couple years back, and they advised me that I should go to her funeral just in case my dad would be there, or I get to meet some of my siblings, or, and it wasn't a time for it to be a family reunion. But I did meet some of my cousins, and some people I had hung out with and kicked it with, and, didn't know this whole entire time that was my cousin. Um, so the cousins that I had hung out with before, I had helped me get in contact with a couple of my older siblings, well, older cousins, and was able to get me my dad's number. And I had his number for a minute, and I was like, do I want to call him? Like, I didn't really know if I wanted to reach out to him or not, because I was used to not having him present in my life. I had went down there when I was to California when I was maybe 10 or 11. And my grandma had that planned out, and I went down there and I visited. I stayed the whole summer. And that was the last time I had laid eyes on my dad physically. Um, and you know, I had a good time. I had a good experience with him. Again, like I said, from the time I was younger to the time I went to go see him, it was my grandmother that kept that relationship going, that kept it alive for us to be able to mingle. But once she was gone, it was really no relationship between me and my dad for real. So, like I was saying in my last video, I was basically sharing how I had to say my goodbyes to my dad through a FaceTime phone call, and how it ate me up to see him like that, to see his lifeless body. And that was the first time I had laid eyes on my dad since I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. So, see, the last image I had in my head before seeing him deceased was very life. Like, he was very happy and cheerful, and, had so much life in him. And to see him gone blew my mind. Now, again, I hadn't talked to my dad in maybe um before me and him gained our relationship back. I hadn't talked to him in maybe 19 to 20 years, and I was eventually able to get his phone number and for us to gain some type of relationship over the years. But it was hard because I was going through my own struggles and dealing with my own trauma, and having to figure out if I really wanted my dad to be back in my life after not really talking to him since I was maybe about 13, 14 years old, and hadn't seen him since I was 10 or 11 when I went down there and spent the summer with him and my grandmother, his mother. Um, Coming to find out, having a conversation with him, when I turned 29 or 30, um, that I had more siblings than what I thought. I always thought I had, nine brothers and sisters, and I was the youngest. Come to find out, it was like 12 or 13 of us, still me being the youngest. But it was just hard having to say goodbye to a man that I was just, and 5 years isn't just, but it's just compared to 20 years of not having him present in my life and not talking to him and not seeing him and not knowing exactly why he wasn't present, and um, why things happened the way they transpired over the years. So, if you haven't seen my other videos, please go back and check them out. I'm just here sharing with you guys how we think we might have time, more time with the people, and when it comes down to it, we don't. Um, Gaining a relationship with my dad that I hadn't had in so many years, and getting to know him and understanding him and his truth and his reasons to why he wasn't in my life, and you know me making up my own excuses and reasons to why he wasn't there, you know didn't align with his. And no, my mom never talked bad about my dad. She never dogged him. Nobody in my family ever dogged my dad. You know what I'm saying? They actually loved him because he was a very charismatic, funny, talkative, joyful guy. He was really dope. The stories that I've gained from my cousins that I hadn't talked to in years about my dad were all amazing. Um, and I wish that I was able to um had enjoyed more of him. Gaining that relationship with him, I didn't really get to find out like certain things that maybe I should have known. Like if he had health insurance or plans or anything like that for him getting sick, and finding out that he had stage 4 prostate cancer. And but my dad was so upbeat, and he was so Like, you would have never known that he was going through any struggles or anything, um, or he was sick. Even the last time I talked to him, he was very still upbeat, and that was a week or two before I found out that my dad had been in a hospital, and he was declining rapidly. The cancer was just eating him up, and having to talk to my siblings, and this is the way I had to talk to them. It sucked because I would have rather, you know, been able to build a relationship with them outside of talking about my father's passing. Um, but I'm really here to say, if you have time to mend any relationship, don't let that shit hold on to you. Mend them relationships, build them relationships back up, because you don't always have time. My last couple of videos that I've been sharing with you guys has been about me having to talk about the passing of my dad. My dad lived in California, and all of my siblings, we all live here in Columbus, Ohio. And from what I'm hearing or what I know, a lot of us didn't have the information that we need or needed to be able to get my dad back home. And we don't know or have the resources to figure it out or to be able to get his belongings um, before they decide to throw him out of his apartment, because I'm sure that not just me but my other siblings want something memorable of him, and I'm sure that he has things of my grandmother, his mother, that had passed away years ago, and none of us may have. And we wouldn't just want somebody to just take them or have them and don't know the history behind it. But again, like I was saying in my last video, if there are relationships that are strained between your parents or any family member, friend, or whatever, and it is able to be mended, please do, because you don't want to be in a situation where I'm in, where I had or wish I had more time to continue to build a relationship with my father, um, to um, hear more conversations, more about him, continuing to learn things about him and my grandmother that I didn't know. Um, just mend them relationships, because you can think that you have all the time in the world. And this right here just showed me that thinking, or just because a person put on a mask and they seem like they are okay, does not mean that they are okay. They could be suffering in silence. And just, you know, because you're strong or um, doesn't mean if you open up to anybody, child, friend, partner, does not mean that you're weak. Does not mean that at all. Um, but all I know is mend whatever relationships that you can mend before it's too
Denise,
late.
it's your dad. Calling, how you doing? You have a wonderful day.